Somewhere on a vast alluvial plain lies an otherwise unassuming boulder, endowed with the artwork of ancient man. But what does it mean, and why is it here? Come along with us on this journey to see if we can discover the answer. So I recently got word of this rock art site that's really remote and off the beaten path. And so we've traveled out here today to explore and to try to interpret a little bit and admire the rock art here. This is a really interesting boulder because there's nothing else around here that's like it. It's kind of out in the middle of this alluvial plain. And it's interesting, it's the only real shade as well in the area. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these images. So it looks here like you have some kind of a creek or water course. And then here are the boulders lining the creek. Perhaps one of these boulders is the boulder here that we are currently looking at. You also have up here the bighorn sheep that's very common in this general area, but you also have something really interesting that's hard to see, and that's these pine tree pictographs with the line down the middle and the increasingly long lines going perpendicular. I'm always really stumped by what these mean and what the people who came out here and drew these were intending. My interpretation is always the most literal interpretation. But of course, I've heard theories about shamanism and vision quests. And some people think it's just art. Down here you have a really interesting one. These two circles with a line through them. Probably the most interesting one is this centipede-like creature that you have here. This long body with the lines coming out the sides. And I've heard that shamans on their vision quests would inhabit the animals that were around here, or maybe that they were consuming. And so perhaps this guy right here was consumed by the shaman, and the shaman embodied that centipede spirit. This is also pretty fascinating down here. You have a series of lines going across, and then this water course looking thing, or maybe that's the mountain. And then up here, some that have actually survived a little bit better. Another kind of like anthropomorph. Is this some kind of lizard? Is this another centipede, or is this a pine tree? Looks like down here we have a bighorn sheep head. Were they trying to evoke the spirit of these animals? Were they hoping that by painting these that the animals would suddenly appear, or that they'd be endowed with the powers that these animals possessed? What's this here? Is this a ladder ascending up the mountain? Is this the trail that goes over the pass into the greener pastures for the summer? So if you look really closely, that's when you start to notice things that are otherwise hidden. And I was looking here, noticing that there's several fragments of bone. And I'm wondering, this is obviously extraordinarily old, super dried out, all cracked up. But I'm wondering, was this somehow used in the making of the paints as some kind of like adhesive, or maybe this was used to make the gray color? In fact, maybe, I also found this little piece of charcoal. This is the only piece here. Maybe these were combined to create the gray. Maybe they were smashed up together. A little water was poured in there, and then the artist, used their finger to fill in that stream there. But I also happened to see this single piece of vertebra lying on the ground near the rock. Did the artist who painted these die here? Was this his final message to the world? Or is it merely the vertebra of a mountain lion or deer? And what about this strange piece of bone with a hole going through the center? Was this part of the artist's toolkit? A random rabbit bone? Or perhaps these are pieces that were once buried but which have been unearthed over time and once again revealed to the world? Or is this part of a larger, more modern murder mystery? This is one of the few sites, if not the only site, that has not only this kind of like ochre color paint, but also a gray fill. As you can see also on this ovular thing here, that there is a very, very slight fading gray that's still left. These other ones look like the gray has already faded off, if there ever was. I'd have to believe that anyone who went through the time to put together these paints and to come out here in the middle of this otherwise very, very remote location had some greater purpose to creating art like this. And so a watercourse isn't just a watercourse. Boulders aren't just boulders. You know, are these sites that mark graves, perhaps? Are these some kind of sleeping circle? It's hard to know. But it really is the reason, the fascination for coming out here, because you get to admire these sites that are hundreds of years old and let the mind wander. Finally, I can't help but wonder about the flat rock that lies in front of the art. It is a perfect place to rest. Is this the altar where the shaman lay upon finishing his ritual, never to wake again? Is this where he finally ascended into the spirit world? I'm curious to know your thoughts on these ideas. Leave a comment below. Thank you for watching this episode of our journey to an ancient rock art site. If you ever come across these fascinating places, please treat them with respect by protecting their locations and not disturbing the art. We'll see you next time.